Everything Bertha Russell has worked for is now hanging by a thread. In just a few seconds of the new trailer for the Gilded Age Season 3, Episode 8, we see a look in her eyes we've never seen before. It's not confidence. It's not pride. It's fear. And when Bertha is afraid, something big is coming. Let's break down what this means and how the trailer reveals more than you think. Asterisk. Episode 7 left us with several storylines reaching their boiling points. Bertha Russell's long-standing campaign to dominate New York's elite social scene took a sharp turn. After hosting one of the most extravagant events of the season, she faced an unexpected blow. Her invitation to dine with the Duke of Buckingham was revoked at the last minute. It wasn't just a social slight, it was a public embarrassment. The very same people she thought she had won over suddenly started whispering behind her back. She now realizes that money alone may not be enough to buy her a seat at the top. Meanwhile, George Russell is facing pressure from all sides. His business rivals are closing in, and whispers of a potential scandal are starting to circle the boardroom. His calm exterior is beginning to crack. In a tense exchange with his advisors, he appears more vulnerable than we've seen before. It's clear that even the mighty Russell name is starting to show signs of strain. Marian continues to struggle with the rules of the high society she was forced into. After ending her engagement to Tom Rakes and trying to live a more independent life, she's now caught between her own values and the expectations placed on her. She was last seen contemplating a new path, one that might bring her into conflict with the very family that took her in. The trailer gives us a brief glimpse of her alone in a quiet room, holding a letter. We don't know what it says, but her face says everything. It could be a message from the past, or a warning about the future. Peggy Scott, who began the season as a writer caught between two worlds, has started to find her voice in the world of journalism.
Us.
In Episode 7, we saw her publish a piece that challenged the social order, calling out the hypocrisy of those who preach progress but practice exclusion. Now in Episode 8, she seems more determined than ever to use her words to make change. The trailer flashes to her at a printing press, her hands covered in ink, a fire in her eyes. Peggy's story may be one of the most powerful in the series, showing how quiet resistance can grow into something unstoppable. Lastly, the battle between old money and new continues to shape every decision and every conversation. Characters like Mrs. Astor, Aurora Fane, and Ward McAllister are all positioning themselves for the next social shift. Who will rise? Who will fall? Episode 8 promises to test every alliance and expose every weakness. The trailer gives us only seconds of footage, but each frame is packed with meaning. And as we'll see in the next sections, there are secrets hidden in plain sight. Every line of dialogue, every background detail, it all points to a finale that could change everything for the Russells and everyone around them. Asterisk.
Asterisk.
She stands at the top of the grand staircase. The chandelier above her glows like a crown, but no one bows. The room doesn't go quiet. And for the first time in a long time, Bertha Russell feels invisible. That's the exact image the trailer chooses to open with, because this time, power isn't enough. She's being tested not by rivals, by the world she spent years forcing her way into. In the trailer, there's a quiet yet brutal shift in how Bertha is presented. Her presence, which once commanded attention, now feels isolated. We see her in a new gown, lavish, yet strangely muted. The colors are softer than her usual bold palette, perhaps a subtle sign of her trying to blend in rather than stand out. That's not Bertha. It's someone adapting, someone calculating, someone cornered. Then comes the scene at the opera house. Her private box, once the center of attention, is shown empty. The camera cuts quickly to Mrs. Astor exchanging glances with other socialites in the opposite box. No words are spoken, but the message is clear. Bertha's being iced out. The people doing it are the very ones she once tried to impress. The tension here is quiet, but sharp. If you look closely, the trailer uses light to separate Bertha from the crowd. She's always shown in contrast, darker rooms, colder lighting, more shadows. Even the camera lingers on her longer, creating a feeling of distance. But Bertha has never been one to retreat without a plan. Midway through the trailer, we get a short but powerful glimpse of her meeting a British nobleman. There's a handshake, a flash of eye contact, and a barely noticeable smirk. This could be the same Duke who rejected her invitation in episode 7, or someone higher. Either way, Bertha is playing a new game. The New York elite won't accept her, maybe London will. That handshake might not just be social, it could be political. Another scene shows we're standing beside George Russell in what looks like a courtroom or a public hearing. Her expression is unreadable. George looks furious, while Bertha seems oddly calm. That's important, because whenever George is in trouble, Bertha gets sharper. She starts calculating, strategizing. Her silence, in that shot, says more than words could. She might be ready to make a move that separates her social life from George's business reputation. What's also worth noticing is the absence of her allies. Ward McAllister is nowhere in the trailer. Neither is Aurora Fane. Even Mrs. Winterton, who was once in Bertha's shadow, is shown having tea with Mrs. Astor. The message here is unmistakable. Bertha is alone. Whether by choice or force, we don't yet know. But the trailer saves its most revealing moment for the end. A single-shot Bertha walking through the hallway of her home, alone, no staff, no family. Just her reflection in the polished marble floor. It's symbolic. The woman who built a palace now walks through it like a stranger. But she doesn't stop. She doesn't sit. She keeps walking, which tells us one thing: she's not done yet. Coming up in the next section, we'll break down Marian Brooks' subtle but emotional journey in the trailer, and what that mysterious letter could mean for her future. Asterisk, it's raining outside the window. But Marian isn't looking at the storm. She's looking at a letter, unopened, resting on her lap like a weight she doesn't know how to carry. That's the quietest moment in the trailer, but also the loudest. Because with Marian, the silence is where everything happens. And this one letter could be the key to everything she's been avoiding. The trailer gives us very little dialogue from Marian, but every frame she appears in tells its own story. We see her standing in front of a mirror, adjusting her collar, with both hands almost like armor. That's not the Marian we met in Season 1, the soft-spoken idealist who moved in with her aunts full of dreams and innocence. This is someone who has seen too much, learned too much, still doesn't know exactly where she belongs. Her past is catching up. One quick shot shows her passing by Tom Rakes on the street. Neither one speaks. He tips his hat. She doesn't stop walking. But something about her face in that moment hints at unfinished business. It's not regret. It's not anger. It's memory. It's the kind of memory that doesn't leave quietly. Given the tone of the trailer, it wouldn't be surprising if Tom's return signals a deeper complication. There's also a flash of Marian, tending what looks like a school or perhaps a community gathering. She's surrounded by younger women, and she's speaking to them. Teaching, maybe. Inspiring, definitely. If this is her new path, it's a bold one. Moving away from social expectations, away from wealth, away from marriage. But bold choices come with consequences, especially in a world that only values women when they're married. Quiet and obedient, another scene shows her in a heated conversation with Aunt Agnes. The volume is muted in the trailer, but their body language says enough. Agnes stands with arms crossed, firm, unmoving. Marian gestures toward the window, desperate, emotional, maybe even angry. This isn't a disagreement, it's a confrontation. It could be about a man, but it could also be about her future, her independence, her right to choose something different. Visually, the trailer isolates Marian in every shot. Even when she's in a room full of people, the focus stays tightly on her. This is on purpose. She's becoming her own person, separate from the families, the fortunes, and the rules that once shaped her. The camera tells us what society won't say aloud. Marian is drifting away from the world that raised her, and she might not come back, but just when you think she's stepping into the light, the trailer cuts to that one final shot, her standing at the edge of a church aisle. Alone, no music, just the sound of her breath. Now the moment lasts. Less than 2 seconds, but it stays with you. Is it a dream? A vision? A warning? We don't know. But it tells us one thing. Marian's next decision won't just affect her life. It could ripple through every family in the series. The ink stains on her fingers tell a story louder than any headline. The typewriter clicks echo like thunder, and in the dim light of a crowded newsroom, Peggy Scott is not just writing words, she's carving a path through history. The trailer barely gives her 10 seconds of screen time, but those seconds speak volumes. Because while everyone else in this world is fighting for a seat at the table, Peggy is building her own. From the very beginning, Peggy's story has moved differently. While others chase power through marriage, money, or manipulation, she's chosen truth. Her weapon has always been her voice, sharp, thoughtful, and fearless. And in episode 8, that voice is about to reach new heights. The trailer shows her standing in front of a stack of freshly printed papers, her article on top. The headline is blurred, but the confidence on her face isn't. She's not just reporting anymore. She's shaping the conversation. One scene cuts to her walking down a narrow hallway at the newspaper office. Men in suits turn to look, some surprised, some annoyed, some afraid. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't slow down. This isn't the Peggy who once apologized for her place in the room. This is someone who knows exactly why she belongs there, who's already thinking 2 steps ahead. But the trailer doesn't just show triumph. It also hints at danger. In one blink and gelled my excite moment, we see a letter being slipped. Under her door, no name, no return address, just a folded piece of paper. She picks it up and stares at it for a second too long. Her expression doesn't change, but her hands grip the paper just a little tighter. It could be a threat, a warning, or a secret about to change everything. Whatever it is, it reminds us that telling the truth in this world is never safe. Peggy's storyline has always run parallel to the others, but now it's starting to intersect. Another clip shows her crossing paths with Marian again. The two women share a quiet moment in a park, far from the mansions and ballrooms. Peggy speaks. Marian listens. Whatever is said, it shakes Marian. Her face goes still, her eyes drop, and for once she has nothing to say. This could be the start of something, an alliance, a decision, or even a betrayal. Because when the truth starts pulling people out of their comfort zones, not everyone is ready to follow. There's also a powerful visual contrast in Peggy's scenes. While other characters are shown in gold-lit halls and velvet-draped salons, Peggy's world is sharper, realer, brick walls, stacks of books, candlelight instead of chandeliers. It reminds us what she's up against and just how far she's come. But more than that, it shows us the truth of her strength. She doesn't need a fortune behind her or a title next to her name. Her words are enough. Her mind is enough. Near the end of the trailer, we see Peggy standing alone at a lectern, facing a crowd we don't see. Her hands rest on the edges of the podium, steady and sure. She takes a breath, opens her mouth, and the trailer cuts to black. No words, just silence. And that silence is louder than anything else, because it tells us her next move won't be subtle. It'll be heard, it'll be felt. In the next section, the focus shifts back to the battlefield of business and legacy wear. George Russell finds himself facing enemies on all sides, and his empire may not be as unshakable as it once seemed. Asterisk the sound of footsteps in a marble hallway, heavy, unhurried, measured like a judge walking into a courtroom. George Russell appears, coat over his arm, eyes fixed straight ahead, but there's something different this time. He's not entering a negotiation, he's walking into a fight. And this time, the battlefield isn't boardrooms or contracts. It's everything he's built, everything he thought was untouchable. In the trailer, George is rarely shown speaking, yet every second he's on screen is thick with pressure. His first scene shows him seated at the end of a long oak table, surrounded by men in tailored suits. They're not listening to him. They're listening to someone else. A younger man. A rival. And for the first time in a long time, George Russell doesn't look like the most powerful person in the room. He looks like someone calculating how much power he still has and how fast it's slipping away. The camera work says it all. His scenes are darker now, colder. Gone is the warm golden glow of past episodes where George was always shown in control, commanding attention. Now he's shot from angles that make the room look bigger than him. The desk wider, the shadows longer. He's still the lion, but this time, the cage is closing. There's a scene where he walks out of a meeting, jaw clenched, barely holding his composure. Bertha is waiting for him just outside. No words are exchanged. She simply watches as he passes by. It's a moment that speaks volumes. Their partnership, once unshakable, is beginning to fracture. George has always been the fortress, the one who fixes things. But now he's under siege, and Bertha knows it. One of the most haunting moments comes halfway through the trailer. George is shown standing alone on a construction site, wind howling, papers blowing from a clipboard at his side. He doesn't chase them, he just watches them fly. It's a metaphor that doesn't try to hide. The structure behind him is half-finished wooden beams, no walls, no roof. His empire, once rising with unstoppable force, is now exposed, vulnerable, maybe even doomed. But George Russell isn't a man who surrenders, not easily. Another flash shows him speaking with a man in a dimly lit room, possibly a political fixer or someone tied to the city's underbelly. Their conversation isn't heard, but the handshake they share is firm, quiet, dangerous. If George can't win in the daylight, he might be preparing to fight in the shadows. The trailer also hints at a possible betrayal from within. A younger executive, someone we've only seen in passing, appears twice. Once in the boardroom, speaking while George listens, and once again in private, shaking hands with a rival. The framing suggests this man may be planning something, a takeover, maybe, or a leak. George has spent his career trusting only a few people, and now even those few may be turning. Then comes the final shot, George Russell, back in his home, pouring a drink in silence. His reflection stares at him from the glass window. The city glows behind him, but his eyes aren't on the lights there, on the shadows creeping in. And for the first time, it's not clear if George can hold the line. Next, we turn to the grander stage where alliances are shifting and society itself is being rewritten. In Section 6, we'll explore the deeper themes of power, class, and survival that Episode 8 is beginning to surface. The sound of applause fades. The chandeliers still glitter. But beneath the satin gowns and pressed tuxedos, something is unraveling. The Gilded Age was never about beauty. It was about what beauty hides. And in this trailer, Episode 8 starts pulling back the curtain. Because when fortunes shift and loyalties crack, elegance becomes a disguise, and survival becomes the game. The themes in this episode reach deeper than just personal drama. What the trailer hints at, through framing and pacing, is that the walls of old New York society are beginning to shake. This is no longer just Bertha versus Mrs. Astor or George against his business enemies. This is about the entire structure of power who built it, who's allowed inside, and who's ready to burn it down. One of the most powerful images in the trailer comes not from the elite, but from those watching them. Servant stands behind a curtain, overhearing a conversation. Coachman glances at two socialites entering a home. These are quick, quiet moments, but they matter. They remind us that the world of the Gilded Age is always being observed, judged, and quietly resisted by those it tries to ignore. And the trailer seems to be signaling that their stories are about to step forward. The opera, once the symbol of social dominance, is shown in a new light. This time, the camera doesn't focus on the audience, it focuses on the workers setting the stage, the seamstresses behind the curtain, the stagehands moving props, the people who make the illusion possible. It's not an accident, it's a message. The illusion is breaking. Those who live outside the spotlight are finally being seen. We also begin to see the cost of ambition. Bertha Russell's rise has always been paved with diamonds and defiance. But now, her ambition has a shadow. The isolation we see in her shots isn't just social, it's emotional. The trailer's choice to show her alone in her own home, walking down a hallway with no one at her side, speaks volumes. The power may have brought her to the top, but it didn't bring peace. Then there's Marian. Her scenes are filled with contrast. She's caught between tradition and freedom, between comfort and self-respect. The church scene in the trailer where she stands in an empty aisle is a haunting metaphor. Is she walking toward a marriage? Away from one? Or is she standing in the middle, unsure of whether she even believes in the path laid out for her? Peggy's scenes, meanwhile, tell a different story, one of transformation. Her struggle is not about fitting into a system, but rewriting it. The ink on her hands, the stern faces in the newsroom, the silence before she speaks, they all represent the quiet revolution she's leading. She's not seeking approval, she's demanding change. And George's unraveling tells us that money alone isn't enough to survive what's coming. For so long, he's believed control could solve anything. But the trailer shows cracks in that belief, whether it's betrayal in the boardroom or strain at home. The world he once ruled is beginning to shift beneath his feet. Episode 8 seems poised to ask the hardest question yet. What happens when the old rules stop working? For some, it means reinvention. For others, collapse. And for a few, it may mean war. In the final section, we'll put together everything the trailer hints at, piecing together the biggest predictions and boldest theories for what might unfold next. Storms in this world never arrive suddenly. They build slowly, quietly, in glances across a ballroom, in letters left unopened, in footsteps that echo a little too loud down a marble hallway. The trailer for episode 8 doesn't scream its secrets, it whispers them. And if you listen closely, it's clear. The final moves are being made, done, and no one will leave untouched. Let's begin with the most immediate tension, Bertha Russell. Her isolation in the trailer isn't defeat, it's strategy. She's pulling back, not out. And that moment where she meets the British nobleman, offering that calculated smile, feels like the beginning of a pivot. If New York's doors are closing, she may be looking to London. A new alliance, a new power base. The old money in New York may have underestimated her reach. Episode 8 could be the start of Bertha expanding beyond them geographically and politically. But there's a risk. Bertha may be forced to choose between status and solidarity. Her scene with George outside the courtroom hints at strain. If George's empire continues to falter, she may need to sever social ties to protect her own image. The once unbreakable Russell alliance may be heading for its first real fracture. And if Bertha begins to walk alone, it won't just be symbolic at all. Be strategic. For George Russell, the writing may already be on the walls. The trailer shows us a man grasping for control in a world that's no longer bending to his will. That handshake in the dark room suggests a dangerous deal, one that may help him recover, or ruin him completely. Could episode 8 see him step into morally gray territory just to stay afloat? And if so, who will pay the price, his rivals or his legacy? Now Marian Brooke, that letter in her lap, the confrontation with Aunt Agnes, and the empty church all point toward a decision. 1. She's been avoiding since season 1 to follow the path laid out for her, or to finally carve her own. The trailer's framing of Marian alone yet centered is intentional. It suggests she take a step no one expects, not toward a man, but toward herself. And if that means cutting ties with her past, even her family, she may finally be ready. To do it, Peggy Scott, meanwhile, might be the most dangerous character in this episode for the system. Her silence at the lectern isn't hesitation, it's preparation. And when she finally speaks, it could rattle the foundation of every household in the show. The letter under her door may hold proof of corruption, a buried scandal, or even a secret about the Russells. Peggy's next article exposes someone powerful, may finally give her the leverage she needs to not just survive, but lead. And don't overlook the supporting players. The younger executive in George's circle may be plotting a quiet coup. Mrs. Astor's sudden alliances could foreshadow a bigger play to crush the Russells entirely. Even the Opera House may become a symbolic battleground, where reputations are won or destroyed in front of the city's most watchful eyes. So what can we expect from episode 8? A rupture. It's not just between characters, but between eras. The Gilded Age has always shown us a world obsessed with appearances, but now that surface is cracking. This trailer hints that we're about to see who survives when the masks finally fall, who adapts or resists, and who gets left behind. Episode 8 might not be the finale, but it feels like the moment. everything starts to collapse. And if we've learned anything from this world, it's that collapse isn't the end. It's the beginning of something new.